Hi, if you're a postal voter like I am, you've probably just received your postal ballot papers through the post. Here, my example, the ballot papers I've received in Islington is perhaps a little bit simpler than you might have received if you were living elsewhere in the country, because in Islington we don't have any council elections or elections for Scottish Parliament, Welsh Assembly or anything like that. So I've received through the post just the one ballot paper for the AV referendum. You might have more than one ballot paper. What you'll also have received through the post is, crucially, this statement that you need to fill in. Your own might look a little bit different from this, but what it requires you to do is to put in your signature and your date of birth. And this date of birth bit is really important, because what happens every now and again I've seen is that people by mistake put in today's date, and unfortunately if you put today's date rather than your date of birth, your whole vote will be invalid. You've got to put your date of birth and your signature, and what happens then when you return all the paperwork is those two get checked against the official records to make sure they match up, and that's a protection against, for example, your postal ballot paper having been stolen in the post and someone else trying to fill it in on your behalf. They wouldn't be able to effectively forge both those pieces of information, so that would protect against fraud. So once you've filled in those two bits of information and also filled in your ballot paper then goes in the internal sealed envelope. Then, with the ballot paper in the sealed envelope and your signature and your date of birth, both of those pieces of paper then go into the outer envelope, which you post back to the council. The reason for having the two envelopes is what it means at the other end is when somebody at the council opens the outer envelope and they see the piece of paper with your signature and date of birth in and they're checking that, your ballot paper is still safely sealed away in the inner envelope. So even though they're looking up your name, your signature, your date of birth, they can't see your ballot paper, so it keeps your vote nice and secret. And then assuming that your signature and your date of birth do match up against the official records, they take the sealed envelope with your ballot paper in, they mix it in with all the other sealed envelopes, with all the other successfully returned ballot papers, they open all of those up, and then they count the votes and add them to the piles, just like they would for normal votes cast at a polling station. The very last moment you can get your postal ballot paper back is 10 PM on polling day. The Royal Mail generally try to be quite good at checking through all the post they've received, and even if you post it late on the Wednesday, they do their best to get the ballot papers into the count on time, but it is leaving it a bit late and it is a bit risky if you post your ballot paper at the very last moment, particularly in parts of the country such as parts of London where the postal service can be rather hit and miss. So my top advice would be fill in your paperwork, fill in your ballot paper, get it posted off as soon as possible. If for any reason things do get delayed and you're right up against the deadline, it is possible to drop off the completed ballot paper and the statement in the sealed envelope in any of the polling stations in the area where you live. Or if you're not quite sure where a polling station is or whether the nearby polling station is the right one, if you give your local council a call, they normally have a team that can be quite helpful and help you make sure that you get your ballot paper in on time. So those are my simple top tips for completing your postal ballot paper. Make sure you give your date of birth, not today's date. Make sure you return all the bits of paperwork in the envelope and post the envelope in good time. Thanks.